Myths and misconceptions about hard and soft limits. There are so many to choose from. I'm just gonna pick them off the top of my head. Ready? Let's go. Wait. I gotta make sure we're all on the same page first. So hard limits, those are your absolute non-negotiable no's. Those are things you don't wanna do. You don't wanna talk about it. Why? It doesn't matter. You don't have to explain or defend your hard limits to anybody. Soft limits, you also don't have to explain or defend those to anybody either, but those are those soft no's. No's that could be maybes or even yeses under the right circumstances, etc. But they're things that only you choose to push. You don't have to choose to push them, and if you do, it's usually only done after lots and lots of discussion and negotiation and communication, and oftentimes, we might even baby step into them over a number of different days, sessions, hours, weeks, whatever. Okay. Myth number 1, that hard limits are really extreme things. And soft limits, those are like the kind of mid things. No. Soft and hard limits can be anything. There are some people that maybe their soft limit is something really extreme, an edge play activity that has a lot of danger and risk. And maybe their hard limit is, don't raise your voice to me. We might look at that going, that's it? But you know what? Again, somebody else's hard limits aren't for us to judge. They are their own personal limits for their own personal reasons, and it's up to us to respect them. Myth number 2, that limits, whether hard or soft, in kink only refer to those activities that are a part of BDSM, you know the acronym. Nope. The scope of your limits, what your limits cover and what your limits conversation covers is limitless. I even have a handy dandy list here. So limits could be, but are not limited to acts, a grown-up hanky-panky, materials, clothing, tools, locations, fluids, language, body parts, marks or bruises, duration, emotional boundaries, dynamics and archetypes like bratting or authoritarian, intensity, whether that's emotional or physical, desired emotional outcomes of your encounter. It could be about specific partners and scenes. It goes on and on and on. Limitless. Myth number 3, that limits are kind of like challenges. Like hard limits, for example, that someone's hard limits eventually are meant to be broken once they're more experienced, or they toughen up, or they learn about this thing or that thing. Because in kink, isn't the goal just to become more and more and more extreme? No, not at all. Absolutely not. Many hard limits are going to stay hard limits. Does that not mean that someone might choose to move a hard limit into a soft limit category, that maybe their limits might change over time? Well, of course that happens. We're human beings. We're always changing, learning, having different preferences, different desires, different outlooks, etc. But whether we choose to challenge or push a limit or not is up to nobody else but ourselves. And if we ever choose to do that, it takes a lot of work and negotiation and thought and communication with partners. It's not just a willy-nilly thing. Myth number 4. We on 4? I think so. Oh, okay. Hard limits aren't meant to be broken. That's what soft limits are for, right? No. It's the same sort of thing. And yes, soft limits are those limits that are soft no's, that under the right circumstances, we might choose to experiment a little, investigate a little, try it out. We might dip our toes into the water slowly. We might decide to dive right in, but guess what? Sometimes when we are the ones to decide to push a soft limit, because we should be the only ones deciding to do that and in charge of how it's done, even though oftentimes we do enlist our partners to help us. It's all consensual. Sometimes we experiment with that soft limit and we go, oh God, that thing was better left to fantasy. That didn't go from soft limit to this is something I like now. That just went from soft limit to hard limit. Let's round it out at an even 5. Well, limits, those are for submissives, right? I mean, what kind of limits do doms have? Limits are for everybody. Dominants have limits too. They're not just for submissives. In my last video, I dived really deep into some limit nuance about how DS couples, some of them, choose to view a certain subsection of some of their soft limits. It's an option. It's not the way everybody does it, but I'm opening all of our eyes to the different choices that we have when it comes to our consent agreements. But even along the lines of myths and way a lot more, there is a lot more. And I'm going to be talking about it at the DS Dynamics Summit, and that's free. It is 20 classes from some of the top kink educators, names you recognize: Midori, Luna Matatas, Justine Cross, Rara from Pink Kink Podcast, so many people. And like I said, it's free and it's all online. So come join us. I'm going to be teaching discovering your hard and soft limits in BDSM, and there's a lot. There's bratting, there's female-led relationships, ropey stuff. You know, I gotta watch my language on here. So many things: protocols, punishments, agreements, contracts, things. I can't. They're not. It's all educational, but even the words. You know, the censorship on here. They don't even like the words, the educational words. It's just good. So go check it out. Okay, bye. Shit, I didn't press. This iPad is violating my limits. Ugh.